Hello everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's been a very long time. How are you doing? Good? I'm glad to hear that. It's been a really long time since I made an upload. Last week Thursday, I think, with my World War II timeline video. Yeah. I don't have an excuse for that, other than work. Work has been really busy. I don't always have time to record. Sometimes I get free time, but I just get so tired. So I would like to apologize for the lack of videos these past couple of days. I have been really busy. I will try and get 2 videos out this week. This one and a video tomorrow. I'm not sure about the one tomorrow, but without further ado. So, if you know me personally, I put a WhatsApp poll on my status asking for people to give me ideas for what to talk about. Because I like to talk a lot. I think you know I like to talk. The problem is that I don't always have things to talk about. I tend to run out of subject material. So I asked some people on my WhatsApp status if they had any suggestions. Now, only 2 people responded, my good friend Dean and my dad. Now, I love my dad, so I looked at his suggestion first. As a historian, it is our job to always be researching and always growing our knowledge of history so that we can constantly correct ourselves. But what my dad had to suggest to me was something that I personally have never heard of before, and it's one of those cases where you really want to find out more about it. My dad suggested that I talk about the Bailey Sharpshooters of World War I. Now, if you're like me, you're asking yourself the question, what in the hell is a Bailey Sharpshooters? Well, without further ado, everyone, let's get into it. Should I do this? Let's go with something new today. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry for the interruption. I had to take a sip of my drink. So, who were the Bailey Sharpshooters of World War I? Well, first off, I'd like to correct myself. It's not the Bailey Sharpshooters. No, it's the Bailey's Sharpshooters. So, World War I. I think we all know what that was. First World War, the Great War, the war to end all wars. In the year 1916, the British Army encountered a bit of a problem. The German snipers were too effective. It got to the point where the British realized that they didn't have the proper requirements to actually fight back. Now, in the military, you have sniper teams, but then you also have something else called the counter sniper. What a counter sniper does is a counter sniper hunts snipers. So imagine this. A regular sniper or marksman will target troops, officers, machine gunners, any kind of specialized roles, but usually sort of the troops and officers kind of category. But this counter sniper, from what I know, a counter sniper is someone who exclusively deals in tracking and hunting enemy snipers. So World War I comes around, and by 1916, the British realize that they don't have proper counter sniper measurements. The German snipers are picking them off, and they don't have the proper capabilities. So what do the British do? Well, Down in the Union of South Africa, there is a man named Sir Abe Bailey. Now, Sir Abe Bailey, if you look him up, the first thing you'll find out about him was that he was a mining conglomerate. He was the head of a mining company. But don't mistake that for someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. Because Sir A. Bailey was also a military expert. So the British come to him and they ask him to create a team of sharpshooters, marksmen, snipers, counter snipers in the Union of South Africa. So early 1916, the British Army come to Bailey. That's where the name Bailey's Sharpshooters come from. And they gave him the authorization to raise 100 sharpshooters. Keep that number in mind, 100. Now, in the military, the average regiment size is about 100 men, and usually you have like staff sergeants and squad leaders and companies all within those 100 men. My voice kind of cracked there, don't mind me. Sir A. Bailey managed to raise a group of 24. So the British Army had, told him to go collect 100 marksmen, but A. Bailey could only find 24. Now, these 24 men consisted of soldiers with just absolutely amazing marksman skills, men who had, received medals for musketry. Then you had big game hunters, so guys who would go out into the bush and hunt eland, gazelle. Then you had professional hunters, people who could spend weeks in the bush. Then you had other people like, just marksmen in general. So Sir Bailey only managed to raise about 24 of these guys between South Africa and Rhodesia, or as some people call it, Zimbabwe. I don't call it Zimbabwe, I call it Rhodesia. So he's got 24 men, all expert, top of the league, top of the field, marksmen, counter snipers, guys who could go into the absolute horrors of no man's land and hunt enemy snipers. Now, I tell you that he managed to raise 24. That's already a lot less than 100. If you're good at math, which I'm not, 24 is a lot less than 100. However, by the time they actually sent to the Western Front, there's 17 of them. Some had to stay back at home. Now, the story already is crazy enough. You've got 24 elite snipers who are being sent over to the Western Front to hunt German snipers. That already is pretty crazy. However, it's not that the Bailey sharpshooters ever stayed together as one unit. No. When they got to Western Europe, when they got to France and Belgium, they were immediately split up. So many regiments in the British Army would receive a member from the Bailey's sharpshooters. One I can think of at the top of my head is the Northamptonshire Regiment, which was stationed at the Somme. Speaking of the Somme, the first combat experience that the Bailey's sharpshooters ever had was the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Now, if you're a historian like me, you know that the Battle of the Somme was not very nice. Well, that's actually a bit of an understatement. It was horrible. Conditions were horrible. The Germans were bombing the ever-living daylights out of the British. The British were bombing the Germans. Just horrible all around. Not the kind of battle that you really want to start your military experience with. So, unfortunately, between 1916 and 1918, a lot And I mean a lot of the Bailey's sharpshooters ended up getting killed in action. Many of them were killed at the Battle of the Somme, either by being buried alive by artillery fire. Like, think of it this way, you're in a trench system, and sometimes the soldiers would have to create their own dugout just to get away from the artillery blasts. However, sometimes what would happen is that the artillery round would hit right above the dugout, and it would actually cause the dugout to collapse on all the soldiers inside. And there were many cases of entire groups of soldiers being wiped out because they were pretty much buried alive. Because remember, it's muddy, mud is very heavy, and you've had like a whole roof's worth of mud fall on you. You're stuck there and you die. So unfortunately, a lot of the Bailey sharpshooters, they weren't buried alive. I think like 2 or 3 of them were buried alive, but considering there are only 17 of them, that's kind of significant. Others, they were killed in action, so many stories of them going out to hunt German snipers and then them getting picked off. There was one case where one of the Bailey sharpshooters, a man from Peter Maritzburg, which is where I'm from, he went missing. One day he went out, as he always did, hunting for German snipers, and he disappeared. No one could find him. They presumed he was dead after like a year of him being gone, so unfortunate, fellow Maritzburg. But unfortunately, not a lot of the Bailey's sharpshooters made it home. To be fair, there weren't many of them anyway, so I'm trying to think of what else to tell you guys about the Bailey's sharpshooters, but there wasn't a lot. Like I Googled the whole of last night, and I tried to find more stories about the Bailey sharpshooters. The only other interesting thing I could find out about the Bailey sharpshooters, well, actually 2 things. First thing, the Bailey sharpshooters were given modified Lee Enfield rifles, which back then was considered very kind of luxurious, because even regular marksmen or snipers in the British Army, they usually just got the regular, Lee Enfield. But the South Africans, the Bailey's sharpshooters, they were actually given, modified Lee Enfields, the Purdy Lee Enfields. So very interesting there. One thing I kept seeing come up was that the rifles all cost £13, which is the equivalent of buying a super ridiculously expensive hunting rifle and like going to fight in Ukraine with it. Yeah, £13 it cost the British Army. They issued most of the Purdy rifles to the Bailey sharpshooters. The only other interesting thing I could find out was that no one actually knows how many people they killed. How many soldiers, how many snipers. Some accounts state that the Bailey sharpshooters managed to get between 3,000 to 3,500 kills, but other sources claim that they only managed to get 2,000 kills. So very, very difficult to try and figure out what their kill ratio was. But most cases state 3,000. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that they killed about 3,000 German combatants during the war, which, considering there are only 17 of them, and most of them died within like the first couple of months of being there, that's actually not half bad, I have to admit. Pretty impressive managing to kill that many guys. That almost puts them up on the same level of Simo Häyhä, the Finnish sniper from World War II, killed close to like 500, 600 Soviets during the Winter War. If you guys do want to see a video about that guy, let me know down below. Well, thank you for listening, guys. This has been a bit of a short video. According to my time right now, it's about 12 minutes. So, yeah, I didn't really have a lot to talk about. This is something very interesting to me. I always love learning new things, especially new things about South Africa. Because South Africa doesn't get the military recognition that that it deserves. Damn it! I'm a patriot. Our army should be recognized. Okay, well, maybe not the modern army. The South African National Defense Force does need a little bit of fine tuning. But anyway, this has been a very interesting topic to talk about. I love talking about things like this. And if you guys have any suggestions for what I should talk about, please hit me up on my Instagram, Lego_HistoryNerd1939. And yeah, give me suggestions. I love hearing from you guys. I like seeing what you guys have to say, even though it isn't much. Well, hold on. Goodbye, everyone. Now I'm gonna leave you.